Anansi and the Hunter's Promise. Long ago, when the forests were deeper, the rivers wider, and the moon seemed closer to the earth, there lived a hunter named Kofi. Kofi was not the strongest hunter in the village. He was not the fastest. He was not the most feared. But he was the most honest. If Kofi said he would bring meat, he brought meat. If Kofi said he would share, he shared. If Kofi gave his word, that word was stronger than rope. Now, this was a problem, because in the same forest lived Anansi. And Anansi loved two things more than anything else in the world: food and other people's promises. One dry season, when the harmattan winds blew dust across the village, hunting became difficult. Animals hid deep in the forest. Traps came back empty. Even the most skilled hunters returned with nothing but scratches and excuses. But not Kofi. Kofi had discovered a clearing deep beyond the silk cotton trees where antelope gathered at dawn. Every morning, quietly, patiently, he would wait, and every morning he returned with meat. The village began to whisper, "How does Kofi do it? Does he use magic? Does he speak to spirits?" Anansi heard this, and whenever there is mystery, Anansi is never far behind. He climbed down from his web and followed Kofi one morning before sunrise. He crept from branch to branch, leaf to leaf, careful not to snag a twig. And he saw it, the clearing, the antelope, the patience. Anansi smiled. "Ah," he whispered, "so that is the secret." The next day, before Kofi could even leave his house, Anansi appeared at his door. "My dear friend Kofi," Anansi said, spreading his thin legs wide as if embracing him. "You look strong today, very strong, like a man blessed by fortune." Kofi squinted. He did not trust compliments that arrived before sunrise. "Good morning, Anansi," he said cautiously. "I have been thinking," Anansi continued. "You are the finest hunter in this village, and I, as you know, am merely a humble spider. But perhaps we could help each other." "How?" Kofi asked. "Well," said Anansi, lowering his voice dramatically, "I have knowledge, secret knowledge. I know charms that bring luck to hunters. I know songs that make animals forget to run. I know blessings that make arrows fly straight as truth." Kofi folded his arms. "And what would you want in return?" "Oh, nothing much," said Anansi quickly. "Just a small promise." Kofi's eyes narrowed further. "What promise?" "That whatever you catch tomorrow," Anansi said smoothly, "you will share the first and best portion with me." Kofi considered this. Sharing was already his way, but he did not like the feel of the bargain. "I already share with the village," he said. Yes, Anansi replied. "But this would be special, a promise between friends, your word sealed." Kofi believed in his word. That was his weakness. "Very well," he said at last. "If your charms bring success tomorrow, I will give you the first and best portion of what I catch." Anansi's eyes gleamed. "And you promise?" "I promise." Anansi grinned so wide his face nearly split. The next morning, Kofi went to the clearing as usual. He sat, he waited, and nothing came. No antelope, no birds, not even a rustle. Hours passed. Then, just as the sun began to rise high, a magnificent stag stepped into the clearing. It was larger than any Kofi had ever seen. He drew his bow. The arrow flew. It struck true. The stag fell. Kofi stared at it in awe. He had never caught such a prize. And then he remembered the promise. When he returned to the village carrying the enormous stag, Anansi was already waiting. "Ooh," Anansi cried dramatically. "What a small animal. Hardly worth mentioning." The villagers gasped. It was clearly the finest catch of the season. Kofi sighed. "I promised." He cut the choicest part, the rich, tender meat from the back, and handed it to Anansi. Anansi pretended to hesitate. "Oh, no, my friend. I could not possibly take..." But he took it, and he ate. The next day, Anansi returned. "My dear friend, perhaps my charms need renewing. One more promise?" Kofi frowned. "You already received your portion." "Yes, but imagine, even greater luck, even fatter game." Kofi hesitated. But again he gave his word. And again a great animal appeared. And again Anansi took the first and the best. Soon the village noticed something strange. Kofi still brought meat, but he no longer ate the finest portions. He looked thinner, more tired. Meanwhile, Anansi grew rounder, shinier, slower. Finally, one evening, the village elder called Kofi aside. "A promise is a good thing," the elder said, "but even a good thing can be twisted." Kofi said nothing. That night, he lay awake thinking. The next morning, Asante appeared again, licking his lips. "Another promise?" he asked eagerly. Kofi smiled. "Yes," he said. "Today, I promise you the first and best of what I catch." Anansi rubbed his legs together with delight. Kofi went to the clearing, but instead of waiting for antelope, he did something unusual. He set a trap, not for an animal, for a spider. He carefully placed sweet palm wine inside a gourd and left it in the clearing. Then he hid nearby. Anansi, curious and greedy, had followed him. When Kofi left the clearing, Anansi crept down. He saw the gourd. He smelled the sweet wine. "Ooh," he whispered, "what fortune follows this hunter?" He slipped inside the gourd to drink. But once inside, his round belly could not squeeze back out. He struggled, he twisted, he kicked. The gourd rolled and rolled and rolled straight into Kofi's waiting hands. Kofi looked inside. "Ah," he said calmly, "the first and best of what I have caught today." Anansi's tiny eyes widened. "My friend, surely we can discuss this." Kofi sat beneath a tree. "You love promises," he said quietly. "So let us speak of promises." Anansi swallowed. "You promised to help me?" Kofi continued. "But you brought no charm. The animals came because I was patient, because I rose before dawn, because I knew the forest." Anansi opened his mouth to protest, but no words came. "You promised friendship," Kofi said, "but you fed only yourself." The forest was silent. Finally, Kofi lifted the gourd. "Today," he said, "I keep my promise. You shall have the first and best." Anansi trembled. "But," Kofi added, "you must promise something in return." "Yes, anything." "You will never again twist a man's word for your own greed." Anansi nodded wildly. "I promise." Kofi studied him. "And if you break this promise?" Anansi hesitated. "If I break it, may my stories be taken from me." Now, that was serious, because stories were Anansi's greatest treasure. Kofi turned the gourd upside down and shook it gently. Anansi tumbled out, dizzy and sticky with palm wine. He scurried up the nearest tree, embarrassed and humiliated. The villagers noticed something changed after that. Kofi still hunted, still shared, still kept his word. But Anansi was quieter, more careful. He still tricked the greedy, still teased the proud, but he no longer fed on honest promises. And that is why, even today, people say, a promise is powerful, but it must walk with wisdom. Because even the cleverest spider can be caught by the very web he spins. And if you ever see a spider near a gourd of palm wine, you may notice how carefully he stays near the opening. He remembers. Oh yes, Anansi remembers. If you enjoyed this tale, please like the video and subscribe to the channel so that more people can enjoy African folklore. Until next time, be good and stay safe.